Welcome to the podcast, everyone. This is NerfedRogue on my channel. This is VorticoseLine75. Welcome to the podcast. Let me add in this stream marker here. Look at that sexy green screen. Yeah, I can't do anything with that. You're right. It has a lot of folds.
Oh, I told you.
Yeah, that's a lot of folds. Undertale Stardew Doom. Yep, that'll work. Oh, it ain't that bad. I mean, it works for your guys' lighting setup and things. So, Vorty, tell us a little bit about yourself to get this intro started here. Again, thank you guys all for coming out. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, so I'm VorticoseLine75. I've been streaming now on Twitch for a year and a half. Been full-time now for the past year. Previous to that, I was doing management for 20 years, so it's been a little different world on that level, and I now stream alongside my wife as well. So
there you go. So Vorty not only has been a streamer for only a year and a half, he's only been full-time for about a year. And why don't you tell me a little bit about your path to partner?
So when I started streaming, let's see here. Oh yes, we got the dog that normally shows up as well. So path to partner, yes. So I basically started streaming a year and a half ago, and in that time I was at about 5-10 viewers, that kind of thing, for the first few months. I actually had a partner that I still talk to today that raided to us about 3 months in, and one of my mods actually came over from that raid, and we've managed to keep the community of that time and network and everything from that point. But we've grown slowly from that. About 6 months in, so 1 year ago, I was at 505, and since then I now am at about 13,000. So we actually went, let's see, November was when I hit Path to Partner. We had applied for partner at that time. We went through 3 applications for partner for that, 3 applications for Warframe partner as well, all denied. It wasn't until our 4th there where we were showing consistency. So one big thing I say to everyone is it's going to take you at least 90 days of consistent time after Path to Partner, whether they say it or not. It's more like a job application for Path to Partner rather than affiliate status, where you just get it, you send it in, and your affiliate, it's more so like you're actually applying for.
Kirby, yes, if you hit the button twice, it will make you unfollow. So don't hit it twice. Just hit it once to follow. That's all you got to do. Hey, look, there's people in the background. So you applied for a partner for not only Twitch, but also Warframe 3 different times over a 90-day period. Did that ever feel discouraging to you that you got denied the first 2 times, and then you're looking at your 3rd time and you're saying, well, I already got denied 2 times. What could I do differently so that I make sure that I'm not denied this 3rd time?
It was absolutely discouraging, but you can't let your community see that either. It's the big piece of it is matters how driven you are. So you got to be able to pick yourself back up and be more critical of yourself than anyone else is, basically. And take a look at your VODs, take a look at what you're doing poorly, what you're doing well, and highlight those things.
Right. So when you say looking back at your VODs, what is being a partnered streamer now? Before you were a partner, what were you looking at in your VODs to ensure that you were getting the best quality for what you were putting in?
So realistically, I would go back and look at the actual Twitch panel. Easiest one to do without looking at analytics outside of Twitch. Go back, look at the times that you have highest viewers, lowest viewers, and start to see exactly where your peaks and valleys are, and then go back to your VOD during those times and see exactly what you're doing. So see what content works for you, what content doesn't, and not to say change what you're doing on your stream or anything like that, but changing how you're approaching.
Okay. So if you notice, like, let's say, for instance, you're doing a funny voice or you're using some kind of voice modulator, like I can key up, at about any time. If you're finding really good viewers, then maybe start interacting with your community more with that voice modulator versus just your regular talking voice. Is that what
Exactly.
I'm kind of, yeah.
So the other side of it too. So I'll say when I started streaming, I was like, hey, we're going to do this. I actually started streaming to show endurance content. And I started noticing as viewers were going up, I was doing well with that because people wanted to see it. But at the same time, when I would hit that like 3-hour mark in an endurance run, it would start to fall off. And it wasn't because of the content. It was because of my lack of interaction at that point, because it was getting to the point in game that I had to focus heavily. So I wasn't as interactive with chat at that point and things like that. So it can be outside influences as well. And that's why I say watch.
Okay. So you say you do endurance streams, endurance content. What's the longest that you've actually streamed to date?
I don't know the exact time we hit, but we did do 100-hour stream.
And how Jesus, how long did that take you to complete 100 hours in one stream? Is that 2, 3 days, 4 days?
That was starting at Thursday night and going until Tuesday early morning.
Jeez. And so I know, being part of your community, that you are a large advocate for streamer health and making sure that you are taking breaks and things like that. About how often would you say that you and Twyla take breaks when you're streaming for those, let's say, 70-hour, 100-hour streams?
Oh, every hour and a half. Absolutely. Get up, stretch, that kind of thing. And yeah, Kirby.
Impromptu 100 hours.
But yes, every hour and a half, make sure you're drinking water. So at the very least, every 2 to 3 hours, drink a bottle of water. During that 100 hours, I think I had 2 to 3 coffees, a couple fountain drinks, and I had water all between that as well. So I didn't have energy drinks, didn't have any of that. It was just straightforward getting it.
So what you're telling me is, as a partner streamer, you don't live on Mountain Dew and Doritos?
Exactly.
That is insane. That's all I've ever heard of video gamers, is we just live on Mountain Dew and Doritos. Water is important, guys. That is the big takeaway from here. I don't personally drink water because, well, I don't stream for 100 hours. But so VorticoseLine75 is a very, very big advocate of streamer health. He and Twyla both went on, would you call it a challenge? To get healthier and to get in a better position of being in shape. I think it was honestly to keep up with their son. But tell us about a little bit about your road to getting fit.
So biggest thing, I went from working a retail job. I was walking about 1,000 or about 18,000 to 20,000 steps a day. And I noticed I was gaining weight. I was not as healthy. I couldn't run as far, that kind of thing, after about 6 months into streaming. And that was why we really stepped into doing this. And it was every sub, we started doing 10 sit-ups, 100 bits, 30 seconds of plank. And it was something to incorporate the community into it, because as streamers, especially doing these long streams, it was not even physically possible to set up a gym regimen and that kind of thing. So that was the sacrifice we had to make, but we brought it to our community instead. And since then, I mean, we've been running it now for a few months, and I've lost about 15, 18 pounds. She's lost, I think, 18 to 20 now.
About
so
20 pounds now, yeah.
Wow. I think you gave them all to me, but that's fine. So you said every subscription is 5 sit-ups?
10.
10 sit-ups. And every 100 bits is 30 seconds worth of planks?
Yep. And then the couple big donations we've gotten and that kind of thing, we've allowed the community to decide. I know that we got one large donation that we agreed to do. I did 500 push-ups. She did 500 sit-ups for.
Wow. So overall, what would you say your number of sit-ups are up to now, and what are your plank minutes up to?
So she's nearing in on 300 minutes of plank time, and
very much.
oh, she says she's almost down to 200.
I'm at about 220 right now.
She just cut me off. Okay. But
let's also welcome to the stream Twyla, who is VorticoseLine75's wife and also the person that co-streams with him all the time. If you want to check out their content, guys, I did put a little blurb up there. You can find them. And can I get one of my mods to do a shout out for VorticoseLine75, please? But that is a buttload of time for planks.
Yeah, and I've tried to get the sit-ups under 3,000. I've had them down just under 2,000, and they've bumped back up. So it stayed around there. We had committed originally to get that done by TennoCon. We're now committing to get it done by TwitchCon. So I have, 20 days to do 3,000.
Wow. You said 20 days to do 3,000 sit-ups?
Yeah, and that's not much, but considering that every time we get it down by 1,000, we get a little sub bomb usually, and the community doesn't like me to get them done.
I mean, I feel like they would rather watch you play Warframe than do sit-ups all day. Should just do a time-lapse YouTube video. This is me with the clock doing sit-ups on a day off.
Oh, we did that last time that we had gotten them down, and then they pushed it right back to 3,000.
That's wow. So speaking of games and what you guys do to play games, what are your main games?
So we've been rotating between games. So yes, Warframe being on there. I haven't for a couple weeks, but Final Fantasy 14, Monster Hunter World. What else? We play Rocket League regularly. We've been rotating between a few RPGs and things like that as well, but really rotating games at the moment so that we can get ready for Borderlands 3 and Ghost Recon Breakpoint coming up.
You said Borderlands 3?
That is correct.
He said Borderlands 3. So, Vorticose and I will both be playing with a couple of other people. We're going to be doing 24 hours. Or more, probably more, because, I mean, why not? If this guy can do 100 hours, I'm sure I can do 48. But we'll be playing Borderlands 3 when it comes out and when it is released. Do you know who you want to be in Borderlands 3 yet?
I do not yet. I actually am going to be looking at that this week when I start planning out time.
You haven't even looked at them yet?
No.
Oh my god. Okay. Fair enough.
I figure the regional expert can share that with me.
Well, Moe's for sure is going to be mine. Someone get nerfed new. Right? So Moe's is definitely going to be mine because I love the robot aspect of it and how you can have not only yourself riding in the robot, but also a teammate riding in the robot, and you can put rocket launchers and flamethrowers every place. The siren in this series for me isn't really what I expected it to be, because if you look at the sirens in the past, you know, you look at Lilith and you look at Maya, they had kind of a lengthy distance between them and the enemy that they could use their powers. And this siren is basically Brick all over again, but just with more arms. Flak is pretty cool for being a robot, being former Hyperion tech, and having pets that he has run around with him. And I don't know that much about Zane, other than he is apparently the son of or nephew or something of Flint, Captain Flint from Borderlands 2.
Nice.
But I know for me, I'm Moe's 100%. Like that's going to be the character that I max out, gear out, run raids with. Paladin Snowberry, welcome to the chat. How are you? Oh, sheet. Yep. Wow. So the big thing that I wanted to touch on with you being in the podcast is this is really more of a streamer's help podcast and something where I take information from other people and I help it get disseminated across, a platform where we have people watching and eventually put it up on YouTube where people can search for things. But I know that you have had a lot of work put in, and some people say luck. Okay, hold on one second. I gotta. There we go. Okay, got it. Thank you, Twyla, for letting me know. I just did that. So you've had a lot of work put in with different sponsors and with different companies so that you can get things like that beautiful chair that you're sitting in. You and Twyla, I don't even know how you did it, but you talked to a company, got them to sponsor you a chair, and I wanted you to tell us kind of the process that you go through when you're looking at someone to approach for a sponsorship, or if you even approach anybody yourself.
Okay, so early on, I actually had this perception that getting sponsorships was like this white whale thing that was almost impossible, or you had to personally find the people, or they found you at conventions or something of that nature. But in reality, I went to the Chicago meetup and I met a guy from Bottle Spark, actually, and he was talking to me and he actually showed me some of the different analytics and things like that they look at. And realistically, for them to start approaching you, he gave me just a raw number.
Thank you, Kuza, for that. I appreciate it.
Dog is angry that I'm not looking at him.
Hi, dog.
So I had talked to him. He actually gave me a raw number that for them to approach you, it's about 20,000 followers and right around 200 average, which is not untrue. I've started getting approached by some smaller companies, mobile companies, and a few others like that. But realistically, you got to watch for it because a lot of these that are approaching you are looking for basically free advertisement. So they're going to be like, hey, we can give you the game for free. And it's like a mobile game that's practically free anyway. And they want you to do like 4 hours of sponsored time for them for absolutely nothing.
Wow. So
yeah, it's been. Oh, go ahead.
So on that front, it's kind of like how Razer has their affiliate program set up, where you have to not only buy their equipment, but also advertise them on every single platform that you've ever seen or been a part of for so long just to get like a 10% off discount.
Yeah, you're going to run into a lot of that where it's like advertise the product, but you have to own it and you've got to buy it yourself. And yeah, they do want people that actually own some of the product, things like that, because it lets you be able to speak to it and everything. But most of the sponsorships we've gotten lately have been products that we never used. And I just said, hey, here it is. This is what's going on with it. But it's really back to the guy at Bottle Spark. He showed me the biggest thing that you want to do is show your highlights and lowlights. So one thing that people miss when they're applying for sponsorships is they just give their highlights. So it's like, hey, I've got these average viewers, I've got these followers. Okay, thanks, bye. But realistically, if you highlight your actual lowlights, meaning the things that you're working on to show why you're getting the growth and show that you're critical of your own stream and showing that you have a growth trajectory and a plan, you're more likely to get that because it shows you're honest and transparent in your dealings. And that's the biggest piece that people miss with applying for sponsorships. I mean, these chairs $450 a piece. We managed to get 10% off for the community and get the chairs in process of it. But the deliverables we agreed on for that was a YouTube video, an Instagram story, 2 Instagram posts, a Twitter post, a Facebook post, shout out on both of our streams, and a full month of actual time
Bless you.
on our Twitch panel as well. So do I often do a 1 month of time for that? Not really, but this was something that we really wanted. I stand by these chairs. Usually we'll do a 1 hour and keep it up for 2 weeks. So it really just depends. And you have to have a whole sponsorship deck ready with a full message of like, this is what I charge. This is why. This is the deliverables that I'm going to get. This is, so you have to be able to speak to what they're going to get out of it. And that's the other piece that people miss is they're like, I've seen a lot of people's messages. People have sent me their actual emails they've sent out, and it's, hey, I'm doing this thing. Here's how many followers I've got. This is it. Sponsor me. Versus, hey, here's what I have to offer you, and this is how it's going to benefit you.
Right. So not only just talking about what your actual sponsors, like what your actual follower rating is, what your viewer count is, it's more about talking to the business side of things. Like this is the amount of time I can advertise for you. This is what I have in return for this product, instead of just raw analytic data.
Correct. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people because you hear about streamers all the time of like, don't look at your numbers, don't look at your analytics, don't look at all these things, don't bring it to your community. That's true. Like your community is there to watch you and be entertained. So you don't have to communicate that to your community, but you still have to be aware of it. And that's like any business or anything of that sort, being able to actually speak to it and move to that side of things.
Right. So you said keeping track of your analytics and keeping track of like what your numbers are on a personal basis. What websites, if any websites, or where would you recommend for people to look for the analytics, like what you find on your channel and what specifically that you look for, so that they can also learn from what you have?
So realistically, it depends on what numbers you're trying to look at and what you're doing. So I incorporate both networking and looking for sponsors into the same analytics because I look at all of them at the same time. And I do it about once a week on a light level and once a month just to revisit it as well. And
Right.
there is a plethora of sites, but biggest thing, learn your own dashboard. Really be able to look at that. So as we said, viewing your VODs, knowing your analytics on that level, for a networking standpoint, know who your top 5 are that actually have the same viewership as you, so you can start networking with those people. But outside of that, for sponsorships, Social Blade, huge one. Sully Gnome, so you can see where you sit in game directories, you can see where you sit with others. It also shows you your growth trajectories.
You said Social Blade was the other one?
Yep. And then there's Twitch metrics, Twitch stats, and Twitch tracker, which a couple of them are just very general. Like Twitch stats, I actually use just as a general snapshot because it really doesn't show a lot, but it's something that you can send as an image. So it's like, here's a snapshot in time, because businesses, when you send them this stuff, they don't want to see this huge breakdown of everything. They want a snapshot in time to go, here's what it looks like moving on. So you don't need to send them the whole Sully Gnome breakdown with your pie charts and everything. You can just send them that brief thing, but then you incorporate the other stuff in the next paragraph. So realistically, on my sponsorship deck that I send to people, it's going to be intro paragraph, here's who I am, here's what I'm about, here's what the community is about, here's what I'm looking for. Second paragraph is analytics, here's what I bring to the table, here it is. And then third paragraph is, here's what I'm looking for, and here's what I have to offer that's going to benefit you. Boom, done.
And so you actually, when you're talking about your sponsorship deck and putting this in paragraphs, this is like a 1-page email, essentially.
Yep. If it's people I've talked to longer, so yeah, you want it to look like a very well done cover letter, almost like doing a resume for a job. and make it personalized. Don't just send a blanket statement to anyone, because you won't get a response in most cases.
Dear X, would you mind putting your business here as one? That is actually something that I didn't even know, was to make it more like a resume type page format situation.
Yeah, I mean, look at it, especially with streaming growing large. Is what, 6.7 million total streamers? I don't remember what the number is at the moment.
Something
but
like that.
I'm sure at least 10% of them are sending messages out, and especially if you're trying to get a gaming company to respond to you, your message is going to look like everyone else's if you don't change it up.
Right. And for me, I have no experience in that realm of things, and so I think that, like me, a lot of streamers would just throw out whatever they think is going to work. Like, hey, why don't you sponsor me, for no fucking reason whatsoever.
That's accurate.
I mean, I've actually sat and thought about throwing out, different, like, hey, sponsor me tapes, essentially. Because I used to be a sponsored skateboarder, and for skateboarding, it's really easy. Throw down a few tricks, get them on tape, edit that tape together, throw it out to every daggone company that you can throw it out to, and the ones that like the tricks that you do, they pick you up. With streaming, it's a very different world.
Yeah. And the other side of it too is there's a lot of publications coming out about Facebook. It has lawsuits pending from advertisers right now because of fake viewership, because they were embedding their own streams on there that were basically top of their page ads. So they're finding out that the viewerships are inflated on all these platforms. So it's very hard to get to that level of it as well when you're doing it real, because of all the inflated numbers and lurks and things like that. So one big piece of it is being able to take your active chatters and dividing that by your active viewers, so that you can also communicate to sponsors, hey, I have this percentage of actual viewership that is actively listening and that kind of thing. And so for Twitch, one thing, this is back to the Bottle Sport guy, like, he talked to me for an hour and a half, and I got amazing insight, asked him questions. So that's one thing I'll say, is when you meet someone like this, ask a lot of questions, because they know it well. But as you grow larger, if you look at the top tier streamers, they will be lucky to hit 1 to 3% of their chat as actual active viewers, or active chatters. And if you're in a smaller stream, it's usually anywhere from like 5 to 15% as active chatters.
Right.
So, and what Bottle Spark does, and the reason I bring them up, is they actually do a crowdsourcing for smaller streamers. They do an affiliate thing, kind of like what OPC does, what we were talking about, Razor as well, and a few others do. But they also do a partner thing where they'll get partners into it. And their biggest piece of it was, let's say they signed one of the top 10 streamers in the world and paid them this ton of money to do something. If that person gets injured or something like that, that advertisement's gone. Whereas if you sponsor out, you don't have to pay these smaller streamers to do it, because they're going to do it just for product a lot of times, because they're trying to get a foothold in their sponsorships.
Right.
And then you'll have the mid-tier streamer where you're paying them a little bit, and then those that are about 1,000 viewers where you're paying them a fair amount. And you put those all together, even if 20% of them get injured, you still get the full advertisement value out of it.
Right. So for a lot of these companies doing sponsorships, it's predominantly about advertisement at that point.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. Make yourself an advertising platform for good products, and if you need help, VorticoseLine75. Him and Twyla do, what is it, Mondays? Every other Monday?
We haven't recently, but we've been doing it, every other Monday.
Okay. They have a streamer helpline, which I've actually been on once. That they do every other Monday, and you can go into their channel and just ask them questions about, hey, I'm a new streamer, or even if you're a veteran streamer and you have questions that you can ask. Excuse me. usually someone from the Casual Nexus community, like myself or Vorty or Kirby or anyone really, can get in and answer questions that you might have. And so that kind of segues me into the community aspect of Twitch and the difference from not being a partner to being a partner. What have you noticed in managing a community? Because I know that you have the Casual Nexus streaming team and you have the Casual Nexus community team. And so managing those two things, I mean, in general, for me, that seems like a lot, but you worked in management for 20 years. That must almost come second nature to you now. What differences did you notice before you were being partnered to where you're partnered now in your community as far as the entire Casual Nexus?
So I'll say this: before being partnered, it was a hope, dream, and idea, and a lot of people didn't take it seriously. And that goes from the level of sponsors to all the way to the community as well, other than those that were very close to it. So that's why we've tried to keep it a wait time to get into the main team, and we've actually set it up that way so that we can, I'm just going to use the word, so we can eliminate the clout chasers out of it. Because I can say as soon as that check mark was there, I think I got about 20 whispers and Discord messages within the first 12 hours of setting up the team.
Wow.
Just saying, hey, can I join your team? And I usually wake up to at least one a day. A lot of times it's new streamers. Hey, I'm thinking about streaming and can I join your team? And I have to tell them, I'm like, you've got to be part of the community first. So I've really had to give a very high degree of honesty. I've even lost a couple of my own subs, supporters, followers, that kind of thing, because I've had to turn them away from the team. But it's really dedicated to the community and building that so that we have a variety presence and a lot of people that, if they're bored with watching us, if they want to stay with smaller streamers as we grow, any piece of that, we've got something to offer the team and the community so that they can stay within the community still on that level.
Right on. And I know that since I've been a part of that community, everyone from yourself, which that raid was hilarious. If I can find the VOD for when for when you raided me, and just the whole bunch of debauchery there that happened. I would love to get our two VODs spliced together and just make one little nice master clip out of it, because that was hilarious. But it is all of the, you're right, Twilight, it is the entirety of the streamers in the Nexus. But some really great streamers that I've met personally came from that community, you know, Pocket Ninja and Nindragon and Mr. Morgenstern is probably one of my favorite streamers ever. And they all came from that community. And, you know, that speaks volumes to the type of person and type of community that you have, and that the other streamers that you've decided to associate yourself with. So I guess for me, the big takeaway from that is that you have to be a little bit more selective now, because of like who you put on the team and how you're managing the community, because there are, like you said, clout chasers. And they're going to be there anytime one of us hits partner, which I would like to see everyone in my chat hit partner eventually. You know, me first, but no, if whoever hits partner, that is something that I feel is a big takeaway, is that there are going to be those clout chasers.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say this, early on streaming, before I knew these things, I had this misconception as well. I'm like, man, if these large streamers would just share their stuff and everything. I'm not saying I'm large by any means, because I'm still at growth phase right now.
You're large, but you're losing weight. It's fine.
But realistically, as I've grown, I'm starting to see that like it is physically impossible to manage that many, I guess, relationships with people, and you have to get to the point where it's selective to protect yourself, protect the integrity of your community and everything like that. Right. And so many times I've seen teams and communities that are just based on growth, and it starts to show over time where they're like, just doing these things when new games release, just doing these things. So it really shows up in their community, and you go in their chat, and it tends to get a little toxic or a little bit self-serving.
Right. You know, I've seen around. I'm new to streaming. I'm still less than a year into this, and I've seen a couple of bigger communities where people have already, like, I've not even looked at that community. People come out of the woodwork and like, hey, if you see this community ever approach you, run like hell. And I'm like, what is happening right now? And Bearded Gamer was actually the one who introduced me to the Casual Nexus. And at first, when he told me about it, I was like, well, I've heard about these other ones, and they're really bad, so I'll give it a chance, but I might not be here for a while. And I'm glad I did. I met you and Twyla, and
so I can say this: it's a community that it's unique in the sense of we promote self growth versus promoting growing each other,
Right.
and that's the biggest thing I see of a lot. Is that it ends up being grow the largest person, and then we'll help grow you, and it never happens that way.
right,
Or it becomes this complete growth community of only right into each other, and then you're just causing attrition and cannibalizing your own numbers because you're keeping it in this circle that keeps getting smaller.
right. Augie Bear, I think she was talking about when he mentioned me. Where the hell do I sign up? I love that. Nubonic, you can actually go to the Casual Nexus Discord. It is, what is it? Discord.com.
Yeah, discord.gg/the casual nexus.
Yeah, it is a partnered Discord. What the heck? Dude, you're partnered on like 3 different things. Right? So you got Warframe, Twitch, and Discord.
And Streamloots.
And Streamloots.
Magic the Gathering, Arena,
and
and Chrono.gg.
And Chrono. So that's 6. What's next? What is next in VorticoseLine75's planner for adding that next check mark, adding that next whatever to your repertoire?
So I haven't announced these things to the community because it's growth based for me at this point. So it's like hitting these different milestones, and I don't ever want it to appear to my community like, hey guys, find me more followers or anything like that. I have very aggressive growth plans.
Right.
So I've kept it to myself, but realistically, pushing to the level of starting to grow outside of Twitch to bring it back into Twitch. So I've been working on starting to edit videos so I can put them on YouTube. I've been working on growth on social media. I've actually been working on getting Instagram to a point where I can get sponsorships outside of Twitch as well, so that I'm not relying just on Twitch to do these sponsored messages, because I've noticed when I do a lot of them consecutive, like every stream, it starts to hurt viewership because it feels like a damn infomercial instead.
Right. So you're not talking to your community, you're talking to me. It's a podcast. Would you like to see behind you hanging that YouTube plaque, like 10,000 followers?
Absolutely.
All right. Kirby said, SE sponsorship when?
SE isn't what? Stream Elements?
Yeah.
So the Stream Elements, what is it? All Stars? I forget what theirs is.
I think it's called the All Stars.
Yeah, I think Streamlabs is the All Stars. I don't remember what the name of it is. You need 20,000 followers for that. So that's already on the radar. We've already been looking at it. And I also know that like bigger sponsorships, so I'll say this, don't bother approaching like an Evermedia,
right,
Corsair, a DX Racer, which I personally wouldn't approach DX Racer anyway versus the chairs we have, because they are much smaller than they appear, because I've looked at the DX Racer chairs, and if you're a bigger guy, you don't fit in them anyway. But realistically, they don't even start looking at you until you have 20,000, up to like 50,000 followers.
Wow. I'm only like 20,000 followers off from that.
But realistically, it is a numbers game at that point. They
Right.
really are big on followers. And that's where I'm going to say to anyone that's smaller, don't really worry about chasing sponsorships early on. You can go and do game sponsorships. I'll put a few things in chat real quick that you guys can check out for different keys for games, things like that. So what you're going to look at early on before you're, let's say, at 5,000 followers. About 5,000 is when I really started looking for sponsorships. Before that, it was really talking to games. And I actually am on LinkedIn, and I've heard a mixed review about whether you should bother the time or not. But I now have a lot of community managers on there that I talk to and everything like that. And that's been a huge resource. But I also had a management following that led into a lot of that because the management people I knew have went to work for some of these game companies. So I had couple people I knew that introduced me to a couple people that I talked to, and so on and so forth.
Now, see, that is something that I've never heard anyone mention in all of the different YouTube videos that I've watched, any of the different help streams that I've been in and been listening to. No one has ever mentioned something like LinkedIn. Kirby, thank you so much for that lurk. I appreciate it, my guy.
So I actually ended up getting approached by 3 different influencer networks and directly by a couple companies on there. The one thing you have to watch for is that's where I've gotten the most messages of, hey, can you promote my mobile game?
Right.
And I just got one recently, and they're like, well, would like to know how much you charge. And I don't know what they were expecting, but I gave them an hourly rate, and they stopped responding to me. So
there you go.
So you will get a lot of people trying to launch their new platform. They're like, hey, can you check this out? And I'll say this, spend your time on what matters. That's the biggest thing I can say to anyone growing, because as you grow, you're going to get more and more messages and more people that are, you're going to find a lot of fair weather friends. It's going to be hard to decipher the difference.
Right. So you said you're going to get a lot of fair weather friends, and you get a lot of messages on LinkedIn and pretty much everywhere. You don't have to mention the company. But what is the funniest approach that you've ever gotten for a advertisement opportunity?
Oh man, I wish I had the email in front of me. I got an actual email directly to my sponsorship email or my actual promotion email, and they forgot to change the names on it. So it was a generic template that said, hello, sir, ma'am. And then it went on to say, we are from, in brackets, company name.
I think I have that one.
Yeah, I may have sent it to you. It was ridiculous.
I think you texted that one to me. Oh no, you did. I think it's in a Discord message.
I believe it was in a Discord message.
Yeah.
But while that one's going on, I'll give you another one where I found this thing online and I'm like, oh, cool, there's reviews on this. It looked like what they had done. So one thing is watch out for reviews about sponsorships as well, because I found a company that actually botted up their reviews like crazy. And you could totally tell, because after that, I found out that they were F-ranked by the Better Business Bureau and had a ton of problems. And they've had people trying to file class action lawsuits against them because they're illegally doing their sponsorships. Basically, we went to them and said, okay, sponsorship, cool, let's apply for it. So I apply. I get a message back from them. And the message didn't come in email. They actually texted me illegally because they didn't request text or anything of that sort, and proceeded to text me with no way to unsubscribe to it, which in itself is illegal. It's not professional. It was awful.
Right.
And they proceeded to tell me that I needed to buy their product, and they suggested a value of about $200 worth of bought product to be considered to be added to their 3 different levels of sponsorship, which is affiliate sponsorship or partnered streamer.
So $200 to be thought about, like to be considered.
Yeah, and they wouldn't let us know until we said we had the stuff and showed it and everything. So boy, it was crazy. And so we actually, I'll just say it, we lied to them and said that my grandmama bought us some stuff for the last Christmas, and that's what turned me out of the company. And they messaged me back to tell me that it didn't count because it was gifted items. And I said, how the hell does it not count? Are you not standing by your product? Are gifts worth less, or what's the exact problem? And I continued to talk to them. And I'll be honest, part of the reason that we did this is because I knew it was illegal. I knew what they were doing. And a lot of people don't recognize the laws on these things. So we actually turned them into the state for sending us all the text messages. And
Right.
it can be up to a $1,500 charge per text message that they send. And they sent us a total of like 18.
That's wow.
So I'm hoping that they ate their words, because not very often am I that malicious about things, but I went onto a Reddit forum and found about 200 people that they had duped into spending money, and then they were added to the affiliate program and didn't get.
Wow. That is insanity. But I do remember the one email that you were telling me about, and that was priceless. That one, that even blew my mind that email even made it out of the server. And nobody checked it. Nobody did anything.
Yep.
Just okay.
The other thing I'll say to people about sponsorships too is don't be afraid to turn them down if it's not something that you're willing to do or willing to stand behind. I mean, we've done some for some gummies. We've done one for Manscaped for male grooming. I mean, there's a few, but it's still product we can stand behind along that way.
And I know you can't tell by his face that he actually does male grooming, but I'm sure he does. This is an 18 plus
advocate of healthy living, right? You gotta be wind resistant too.
Oh shit. That's funny. Fade Grips and Rogue Energy. You've had experience with them, Bafiki? Bafiki is one of my oldest followers. His follower time is pretty close. He was actually, when me and him first met on stream, he wasn't a partner streamer either. And then he got partnered, and he does Call of Duty Black Ops 4 tournaments and things. And he actually leads the Fiki fam. Pretty cool guy. Can I get a shout out for Bafiki, please? But he's pretty cool. Him and I talk quite a bit and just goof off. And then some other people, I think Nubonic just actually joined the Casual Nexus. He's actually a really good guy too.
Nice.
Go ahead and shout yourself out. That's weird as hell. Yeah, I make my mods shout themselves out. Do it. But so I'll shout you out in a minute. So you said don't be afraid to turn down a sponsorship if it doesn't meet what your requirement is.
Right.
And so in my mind, it is a little bit on the reverse side of what I'm trying to do. As far as I want to get sponsors, and so turning down that sponsorship, it almost feels wrong. And so what would some of your tips be for those people that aren't really comfortable completely with a sponsorship, and they want to turn it down yet be polite, and maybe even negotiate a little bit with it to see if they can get a better deal for themselves that they're comfortable with out of it?
So here's what I'll say. If you're willing to do it outside of Twitch, that's why I say grow outside of Twitch, because there's some that I wouldn't necessarily promote on Twitch. So some workout products, things like that. I'm willing to do that on Instagram because that's a different platform and things like that. So I'd be fine with that, but they would have to be willing to accept my followers on Instagram and a couple posts, and that's it. And that's where I would give them a different deliverable if I'm going to do that. But the other thing you could do, and I highly recommend this, you don't have a contract with them when they approach you. So there's no NDA, there's no gag order. So go to your community and say, hey, I was approached by this company. What do you guys think? And see how they respond.
Okay. So at that point, it's going back to the community, back to basically the roots of where your streaming started, and saying, "Hey, what do you think about this guy?"
Yeah, there was one that was hard for me to turn down early on. I went to my community and they said absolutely not. It was for Retail Me Not, and they were going to offer $8 per click of anyone that signed up for their web browser, which that would have been easy to do. And $8 per, all right, that's easy enough. And I'm like, that'd be awesome, and I can promote that everywhere. Cool.
Right.
And I went to my community and I was like, what do you guys think? Not one person said, oh yeah, go for it, it'd be good for you. They're all like, hell no. I'm like, okay, done. Turn them down.
Right. Now, did they give any specific reasons why not in that case? Or do you even really look for reasons, or is it just, they don't agree with it, so you don't do it?
Most of it was because of how they track every move you do once you put that web browser on, and not only that, but their site and how they've done their payouts and everything like that. So they were just like, no. A few people did give me reasons, but when that many people said no, I was like, no.
I'm going to cut in real quick here. Bafiki, dude, thank you so much, and good luck with your homework. I'm glad you got resettled back down after everything that happened with you. We'll be in touch after stream and later out on Twitter and stuff. But you have a good night, and good luck with your homework. So, with all of the sponsor stuff and everything else, you still find your passion and your love is first and foremost your family. But then right directly underneath that is your gaming. And so what are you really excited about outside of Borderlands 3 and playing with me? So you're a main Warframe guy. Is there anything exciting coming out for Warframe that you're really excited about?
So near the back end of the year here, there is going to be the long-awaited New War, Empyrean, that kind of thing, which is going to actually launch there it is, Railjack, which they have codename Empyrean. So they've renamed it a bit, changed it up, but it's basically going to be able to fly in the ship. You're controlling a larger ship. It allows you to drop into Arcwing and fly around in your individual unit, and you're going to be able to board other ships. So I'm hoping that it's a lead into another solar system and things like that, but it is their year and a half now they've been working on this. It's going to be a very large update. It looks amazing. The cinematics for it are great. Outside of that, we've got Magic the Gathering Arena has a new set coming out, so we're going to be doing all new decks, that kind of thing.
Nice.
And then Ghost Recon Breakpoint. If you haven't looked at it, the cover system is the most phenomenal thing I've seen in a game, and it is the first shooter game that I've seen that instead of just rezzing your teammates and things like that, you have to drag them to actual like safety and hide points and cover them, and then be able to res them, so you can actually carry them out before rezzing them. Your cover system in the actual campaign mode of it, like you actually cover yourself in mud, and so it's
That's
gorgeous looking game.
See, I've never really played the Ghost Recon series at all, and I know some people are like, oh, I can't believe you've never played it. You're a former soldier. It never really caught my interest.
Me either, and I'll give a little transparent honesty. I had a moment to do the sponsored trailer for Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and I had never played any of the games prior to that. The last Tom Clancy game I played heavily was in the 90s, which was what was it? Rogue Spear, Rainbow Six Rogue Spear.
Oh my god!
And I play Siege a little with my son, and that's it. So, yeah, because of a sponsored bit that I had, I ended up wanting the game.
Nice. Well, there you go. And that's how sponsorships can change your mind about games. That's pretty funny, though. But I'm not going to take up a whole lot more of your time. If you have any final thoughts that you would like to give out to us, we would greatly appreciate anything you say. Zahava77, what's up?
The one thing I'll say as far as a sponsorship, streaming, anything there is you don't have anyone to rely on but yourself. You don't have bosses to blame. You don't have anything like that. The biggest thing I see with people with sponsorships, they've approached me. They're like, hey, I sent out like 20 emails and no one's responded to me. I send out about 20 to 40 emails a week. I
Right.
have been talking to some of these sponsors that I actually get for more than 3 to 6 months. So it's a long-term relationship that you build with them. And my goal is to actually have full partnerships and brand ambassador roles with these people that are ongoing, that are sustainable, rather than just this one-off, hey, we get something, we shout it out and we're done, and actually be able to keep a relationship with all these companies.
Right. So longevity for you is really what your overarching goal is.
Exactly.
Okay. And I did open it up to chat for just a minute so that they can ask questions if they feel like it. I mean, if you guys haven't gone and followed VorticoseLine75, make sure that you follow him on all of his social media platforms. He is learning how to do video editing and had actually put together a really good YouTube video for those chairs, and it is amazing. Paladin Snowberry, dude, thank you so much for that follow. Had to do it. It is amazing. How do you go about introducing new games? Kirby, as far as what? As far as new games to your stream or to your community or just to yourself in general?
I think I know where Kirby's going with this. So
Okay.
one big thing is I see a lot of people either say, I'm going to play whatever the hell I want. And that looks bad on a community in itself,
Okay.
because then you're basically saying it doesn't matter what the community says, I'm just going to play what I want. And that's cool that you want to have that feel to it where you can do whatever you want because you enjoy streaming. And that's fine if you're doing it casually. But if you plan on moving beyond that, you really have to be able to weigh in what your community feels about it. The other side of it is I see people stick to just one game and that's it. And while that can give you growth because you get traction, people start to know you in the directory, and that's a great thing as well. It's going to get you early growth. I recommend it early on, actually, sticking with a game, even if you just do it most of the time. So the other side of it is don't abandon that game when you go to other games. And that's the biggest miss that I see. I see a lot of partners even that have fallen off because they go from game to now the next game to now the next game. And it's almost like they're abandoning their community to get there. So be open and honest with your community right up front of, hey, this is what we do. We do play variety. We're going to do this thing. And it led into when I started going from Warframe into doing other games, it was like, hey, we're going to do this for an hour at the end of stream. And then it turned into, hey, we're going to do this for 4 hours, and then we're going to go to it for 4 hours. So it'd be half and half a stream. And then it was, hey, we got a game launch coming up, so we're still going to play Warframe for 4 of the days, but we're going to do this game for a full day at the end of the week. So really leading into it, I guess it's almost like dipping the toe in the water and then easing people into it rather than just shoving them in the deep end.
Right. So giving them fair warning and taking it, a step at a time instead of just like, okay, we're switching to this game. Good luck.
Right.
Right on. Any other questions from chat while we have VorticoseLine here? You got something funny to say? Go ahead. If it's about Vorty's face, double points.
Ouch.
Must be on mobile. Still waiting. Okay. Every time I stream, I played another game so people would like me and not the game. I mean, that is something that you could do because a lot of, in my community anyway, in the communities that I've been around, it's not so much about the game that I'm playing. It's about me personally. And I know when I first started watching Vorty, it was really about the dynamic between him and Twyla that I watched because I don't really care about Warframe at all. I've played it. It's fun. Okay. But it's not my cup of tea. I'm a Borderlands player. That's what I do. But I really stuck around for Vorty and Twyla's interaction with each other and their kind of banter back and forth. So doing that, I think, and you can chime in on it as well, I think that's perfectly fine as long as your community understands that that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
Kirby said, what about swapping games midstream?
So this is where I'm going to say, don't compromise what you want your stream to be and keep that level of integrity. So you're going to find some people absolutely hate when you swap games midstream. Some people don't mind at all. For me personally, we do long streams, so I think it's only fair that if we do 6 to 8 hours on a game, that we can feasibly switch after that to another game for a while because we've already done a full workday on it.
Right. Twyla doesn't even make any sense right now. She said, I watch streams for the streamer, not the streams. Uh-huh.
She's also into crossing streams. So
I think streams is Twyla's new amazing. That is an inside joke, guys. If you want to check out the YouTube video over on VorticoseLine75's YouTube, he did a review on this beautiful chair that he did where Twyla says the word amazing like 9,000 times. It is brilliant. It's amazing. But that's going to wrap it up here for us, guys. I know Vorty has about 45 minutes, and he will actually be live. You guys are still live tonight. Monday's your guys' day off, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So he has about 45 minutes. I'm going to let him finish up here. That way he can spend some time with his family and get everything prepared for his stream. And I would just like to say, we're not ending the stream over here, Tonk Guy. We're just ending the podcast. No, you're amazing. I would just like to say thank you so much, Vorty, for coming out to the podcast. This will be up on YouTube Saturday. I have the one from Inside Military Esports to put up tomorrow, and then this one will be up on Saturday. And I'm going to...
Awesome. Thank you for having me.